So you got a radio show today. There's no celebration of Italian Heritage Day.
No celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day.
The alert I got on my phone that said that alt-side parking was canceled because of the holiday, which throughout history has been Columbus Day. Celebrated more so in the North than in the South. We never got that day off. We never had.
I never remembered what days we had off that were like those little like crip crap holidays. I never knew which ones we got off and which ones we didn't. I remember being appalled that we wouldn't get the day after Halloween off.
There's no real justification for that one.
No, there's not. But for me, it was like, how? What? We have school tomorrow? I don't understand.
I think I preferred it. I hated when Halloween fell on a Friday or a Saturday because I felt more people went out. I know that kids went out for trick-or-treating no matter what, but I think they stayed out longer when it wasn't a school night. Which just...
What is that?
Less candy to go around. You? They go around. They're clogging the streets. They're taking more candy. Getting in my way. So I think a Tuesday night was preferable.
Oh, see, I liked the nature of everyone can have an easier, fun time because there's not school tomorrow.
Yeah, it just made it worse. A worse experience.
Yeah, we were very...
A worse
different.
Personal experience. Unless, look, if you like Halloween because you like looking at other people's costumes and being around those other people, then fine. But that's not what it's about. It's about going through the motions, doing what you have to do to get as much candy as you can get. And that's not exactly how I live my life, because in this comparison, candy would be money. And I've never really been motivated by money. But I have been motivated by how much can I get done? How far can I get just going through the motions? And it's worked out pretty well for someone who's mostly half-assed things. I can't really complain. Can only imagine what it would have been if I tried.
Man.
What, I'd be if I had tried, where I'd be some level competing with assholes constantly, people willing to stab you in the back. Let's say I became a doctor.
Yeah, all those doctors are always trying to one up each other and like
they need their practice to do well.
Why are you so grouchy?
If I were a doctor, I probably would work in a hospital, and I would just get that measly hospital pay.
Oh, you're
because I'm lazy. Because I don't want to do everything that running your own practice would entail. I'd be like, look, you.
Well, then why would you say measly hospital pay?
Because that's why.
Without trying to express, like, I wouldn't be making as much as I could.
That's why most doctors start their own practices so they can go make shitloads of money. They don't want to work the awful hours and.
No, people have residencies at hospitals and then have their own practice. They have
That's
both.
what I'm saying. I wouldn't open my own practice. I'd stay at the hospital in spite of the measly pay and poor hours. And not because I'm altruistic and have a good heart, but because I wouldn't want to deal with all the responsibility that came with running your own practice.
If only you tried.
Get into the field of insurance sales and you get to the top. Can you imagine the competition up there? All the people who take it really seriously. I'm the top insurance man in town. You're not going to encroach on my territory. It's like, oh, God damn it. I don't have time for any of this.
Yeah, I would not appreciate a career that would mean that I would have to deal with people like that, because I would want it to be like, hey, you got your people, I got mine. Okay, let's both be successful.
There's not enough room for both people to be successful. Well, then you collude. Like, how can we rip people off? That's how both people are successful.
No.
How can we scare enough people into thinking they need insurance?
It's exhausting.
But this is the way it goes. Yes.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, it is, but not like, it's not like the default way of having to think everything is going to go.
It is the nature of the world. We've talked about it a million times before.
I know.
Everybody wants power. People who say, fuck the people. Yeah.
No, that is not true. You
No,
don't
but
want
in
power.
general,
I don't want
when
power.
there's always going to be plenty of people who want the power.
There are people who want power.
When people say, fuck the people in power, they mistreat others, this is bullshit. They're not wrong. It's like anyone in power mistreating other people is bullshit. But it's like, oh, if we could get rid of them, then things would be fair. No, then it'd just leave a power vacuum. And then some other group would take over. And then they'd shit on people. And then
But isn't that
they'd
part
be
of
motivated
life?
by revenge. And then everyone says, oh no, revenge is such a terrible thing. And I'm not necessarily one of those people because I'm definitely fueled by revenge. But there's this whole thing where, well, if the people who were treated like shit for so many years get into power and then treat the people who treated them like shit, then that's okay. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. If you're going to say revenge is a bad thing, then you can't have that. I'm all for directly, meaning directly. If the people who are in power lose that power and those people who are assholes still exist and you want to enact revenge on those people, great. But just in general, if you want to enact some kind of revenge on people who had nothing to do with it, then I draw a line. It's like, hey, no. You got to go for the person who was responsible. Now you're just abusing your power under this false flag of revenge. But
don't you think revenge is really immature?
Sure. I don't. I think, to answer your question, yes. There's...
revenge seems like you screaming at the top of your lungs like, I don't care, but you actually care. No, it's not
screaming
so
that
much.
You don't care. It's saying, I care and I'm not above caring. Like, I will do whatever's in my power to...
Yeah, but the point is that to somehow make them feel less than and for you to be on top. But it feels like the point of the revenge is to make them feel worse and for you to feel better. And so you're telling the person you're not above that.
But I'm not above it, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what you're saying.
I'm not.
Okay.
There's... No.
Don't you want to be above
the
it?
enlightened one that says, well, I forgive. Look, I actually do forgive pretty easily. If somebody does something and I haven't had anything done to me so egregious in my life that I couldn't forgive them, like they murdered someone, I think that would be pretty difficult, murdering someone I care about. But in general, if someone's an asshole, but then at some point they apologize and it seems like they actually mean it, I forget. It's like, well, thank you. I'm glad that you've spent some time thinking about this. So I'm not, it's the people who would never apologize or take the time to think about their actions, or the people who act entitled, that I would want to enact revenge on. And the difference with my revenge, and this is, I am a little bit better than your common revenge seeker, in that person normally wants the person they're seeking revenge on to know that they were the one who enacted the revenge. I don't care. The person I'm getting revenge on doesn't even need to know it was me. I would prefer they didn't know it was me. I would prefer to set up some kind of scheme that got them back and destroyed their life, and they never even knew why. Like, I don't.
Oh my God, this is The Craft. You know The Craft?
No,
in the movie when the girl...
It is a craft. It's a craft.
Sure. I guess that's true too. But in The Craft, what's her name? Who's married to Ben Stiller? Christina?
Melody from Hey Dude.
Yes. She was bullying a girl on the swim team who was part of like the witchy crew, and talked about her hair because she was black, and so her hair was like kinky, and so they were making fun of her for her hair. And then they did like a witchy spell on her, and she was really popular, right? And like pretty and blonde or whatever. And then she did the spell on her, and then she started losing her hair, and she was crying in the corner of like the showers, and the witchy girl comes around the corner and sees her, and she just has like clumps of hair in her hand. She's like cowering in the hot showers, like, what's happening to me? I don't understand. And then at the end, she ends up like, she doesn't know that Witchy Poo like did the spell on her, but she eventually like comes around and is kind of nice to her again because she like has learned a lesson, I guess. But what you're saying, you should be a witch, because then you could do little binding spells and stuff. Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic.
My name is
Elton
Greg
Fisher.
Russ, and
Let's keep talking
if
about
I
you
could
being
be
a
a
witch.
witch, if it were a real thing, if I could
Which it might
figure out
be.
how to create spells and potions and curse people, then yes, I'd probably.
You would totally do that. You would be so into that. Oh my God.
But I would do it for the good of society. But see, this is what makes me.
You would sneak in a couple just like personal shit crap things
When there are
in
people
there
who are
for
wreaking
yourself.
havoc against society, people driving on the shoulder on crowded highways and not, in general, acting above and entitled, I would take those people out, but nobody would need to know it was me because I would feel good, not by knowing that the person knew it was me, but by looking at society and seeing that society is in a better place. People actually enjoying living, having smiles on their faces, wanting to go out, wanting to do things.
And you would feel responsible for that. Say like, I helped that.
Yeah, not worried about going on
happen.
the sidewalk because somebody's filming their goddamn TikTok video and then they cross accidentally in front of the camera and the person screams at them and says, you have no business being in a society because you can't even take a second to walk behind my camera. This is really the way people go about things these days. If we cleaned up the streets of all that filth, I would team up with Joey Swoll.
Who's that?
No.
Is that Bar Rescue?
John Taffer.
Oh, okay.
Joey Swoll. Joey Swoll's
Joey
this big,
Swoll.
giant bodybuilder man. And what I'm talking about happens at the gym a lot. 1 second, I have to clear my throat, and I'll do it with the mic muted. Okay, I'm back. The camera thing happens a lot at the gym where there's people wanting to film their sets. And well, there's many things that happen at the gym, but this is one of the things. And when people walk in front of the camera, maybe they didn't see it, maybe they did and they didn't care because you shouldn't have to go out of your way because somebody has a fucking camera set up. Look, if the camera's 2 feet away from the person, that's one thing, but people put the camera like 10 feet away. It's like, oh, I'm walking across. Yeah. It also doesn't matter. So what if someone walks across? It's a second.
Yeah. I think a lot of those videos are fake, though.
That's a whole other thing. There's rage.
What are you doing?
Rage bait is a thing.
It's like, okay.
These days. But no, this is a real thing. And Joey Swoll always adds his stitch to the video. But he's a very nice, thoughtful man, and he's not looking to shame. Well, he's looking to call people out, but not necessarily.
A thoughtful man named Joey Swoll.
He has these yellow eyes. It's very strange. But
ew, you
should look Joey Swoll up now.
Why can't you say it?
Joey Swoll. It's like Chris Collinsworth saying pass rush. You want to pass rush.
Oh, what does he say?
Because you're getting ahead of yourself.
Pass rush.
Joey Swoll.
Yeah.
So no, he does a video and says, hey, this, fuck you. He doesn't even say fuck you. He's nicer about it. See, I can't even present it. I want to present it in my own voice. But he says, the gym is not your personal space. You are willing to shame other people for likes on the internet. You need to look inside yourself, do better. And he's policing gym culture. I think people say and it's a very fine line because, yes, I could easily see myself looking at someone who is taking it upon themselves to police something and say, who the fuck do you think you are? But this guy I agree with, so I like him.
Well, I think policing it and commenting on it.
Well, he has enough of a following. I think indirectly he's policing it. I don't know if...
Right. Well, maybe he's just influencing, and I don't mean to use that term in the way that it's being used, but maybe he's just influencing people to not be so self-centered and say, well, my camera's here, and that means that I have the right to be annoyed when someone walks in front of it. It's like, no, this is a public space, and people are walking, and you have to deal with it. If you put your phone in a public place.
He's just big into gyms, and he knows that people are.
Oh my God, the way he looks, he's real into
No,
I don't know.
It's all natural with Joey Swoll. That guy is totally natural. How dare you? Yeah, no,
You're
I
joking,
think
right? You're just joking.
He makes his money doing these videos now, and he can spend his days at the gym, and so he can build that.
Okay, sure.
He can build that incredible bod.
Wow, what a bod! What a natural looking
There's
body
also the
that is,
reaction
too.
videos going around in that, I guess not even reaction, but when somebody's walking down the street wearing weird clothes and then they find the one
Yeah.
split second where somebody glances their way because they're acting like an idiot or a fool. And of course you're going to
Right.
call attention, and then like, look at this person checking me out, giving me a side eye, finding
Yeah.
me attractive, but they're such a fucking creep. It's disgusting. It's these.
Well, that's your issue with the platforms like TikTok and whatever, Instagram maybe, where it's giving people a reason to post something like that and then to make something out of nothing.
And that's
just to
happening
make
at the gym
content.
too, apparently, where it's more
Yeah.
so women, where like, look at this gym creep, and there's a guy who walks by
Yeah.
for it takes 2 seconds. He walks through the frame. One of those frames, for a split second, he's looking at the woman, and she calls him a perverted creep. And there, look, I'm in general, I know that women are bothered by men
Yes.
constantly. So this is actually a disservice to when that happens, because not every dude who's walking by and giving a quick glance because you're wearing clothes that go up your butt. Like, I would look at someone like, I wouldn't even necessarily find it attractive. Like, oh my God, I thought you were naked. But no, you're wearing skin colored
Yeah.
tight pants that fit I just had to glance for a second, not because I was checking you out.
Oh my God, the shorts that women will wear at the gym, where it's like, it is skin tight and they're ruched on the butt crack so that it goes in between the cheeks. And then, and then they do these like squats and stuff, and you can see their whole like shape of their poos from behind. It's like, yeah, I'm looking.
If it was a man, I'd also look. If I thought somebody was naked in the gym, I would glance just to double check. It's like, are they naked?
The difference is, like, I don't mind looking at the female body, but like if a dude's ball was hanging out, I would not want to look, but I would not be able to not.
But in those
keep
instances,
looking,
you look not because you're trying to be a creep.
Right. You still, your butt, it's like a biological instinct or something.
Yeah, we also just pay attention to our surroundings. Like and I've been trained a bit more on this than others living in New York, because there is the whole just mind your own business, look ahead. Somebody's being arrested on the sidewalk, step over them. Somebody's screaming and yelling.
Keep going.
Don't pay attention. Don't make eye contact. It's just easier because you don't want to invite anything into your life. But in general, we do look at things around us, and just quick glances isn't a person being a creep. And
right. And people do have to understand that, I'm not an apologist for creeps, but people do need to understand that, biologically men are a certain way and women are too, but the threat from a woman is nothing compared to the perceived threat behind a man.
Yeah, totally.
So I understand, not feeling comfortable with someone looking at you, but then you also have to know that it's like, people are going to look if you got your cheeks out.
We can even take the.
I'm not saying dress like a.
We can
frump,
even take the cheeks out of this. There are people who just dress.
Yeah.
If you're set up with a light and a camera, people are going to look for a second.
Oh well, I mean, that's more of like a little bit of a scene. Whereas if you're just going to the gym, you've got a real nice bod going. You have the tight shorts with the cheeks out. I'm not saying that you shouldn't dress the way that you feel comfortable, but you also have to know, like, people will glance and people will look at you. If they come up to you and like try and fuck with you, then they should not do that. They should mind their own business.
Looking. Like, there's a quick glance, and what's happening is people are taking the fact that there are plenty of guys who will bother women, who will harass women, and they're trying to leverage it for views on the internet. That's what's happening. When you have to freeze frame and zoom in on someone's face, where if you went ahead 1 or 2 frames, they wouldn't even be looking at you anymore. It's like, you're making that up, and you're making that up. And the fact that you're making that up and you know nothing about this person and you are shaming them, and those things sometimes
and they're those not blurred.
Things sometimes do gain legs, and people, I mean, it seems like these days the people creating those videos are actually the ones being attacked, but there's the potential that the person who was labeled the creep it gains some kind of legs, and then people find them and harass them. And like, what? I don't even know what the fuck I did. Like, you don't even remember the incident because
Right.
it wasn't an incident.
But it also creates like a climate of total distrust of any human. Whereas maybe we can cultivate a little bit more of a society of understanding.
But this is why I am the way I am. And you say, oh, I can't imagine. I'm thinking of the fact that this is going on.
But see, for me, I feel like I still have hope, and I feel like
I gave up hope. Go back 5 years. That's when I had hope. I still thought
there's an energy, and I feel like the way that you live is like drinking poison and hoping everybody else dies.
Then. So I'm just drinking reality and not saying, I'm not adding sugar to reality and trying to make it taste better than it really does. No, I think
that I'm not ignoring
sludge.
The realities.
I'm just going to drink it as it is.
I'm not ignoring the realities. Like, I mean, I don't seek out things to disturb me that are true things. Like, I don't seek out the true crime stuff, or like, I watched a TikTok on I was compelled to keep watching it. That guy that like killed his daughters and his wife in the oil tank thing.
I don't know enough about. No, I have no clue.
You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God, it's a terrible story. I'm not going to go into it. But anyway, I watched that video and I started crying at the end, and I was like, God damn it. And then TikTok's insane. Like, the next video is like, the next video was the border between India and Pakistan, those guards that like fight each other sort of by like marching around and looking. Yeah, peacocking. It's so weird.
Hey, if it keeps them from actually shooting each other, then great.
True. Whatever. Keep doing your.
But it's ridiculous. There's not like, if anybody stepped back for a second and looked at it objectively, they'd say, this is fucking dumb. This peacocking's dumb. The things that motivate me are dumb. Me thinking I'm better than another person because I root for this sports team that won is dumb. And I think, one of the reasons I stopped following sports for so long was I was getting too wrapped up into it. I didn't refer to myself as like part of the team. I didn't ever say we, but like I would follow teams, despite the fact I realized how ridiculous it was. I had zero control about anything that was happening. And in any success that happened on the field was not my success. I didn't do anything, and any failure wasn't really my failure. And the inability, despite thinking about that constantly, to separate it grew to be too much. And on top of that, you add in, especially with people on the internet being able to talk to one another so easily. In the past, if you've had a friend who rooted for a different team and that team won and they saw you, they give you some shit about it, and that'd be the extent of it. But people get really nasty about it online. And the way they use it as a vehicle to shit on whole groups of people. Yeah.
Or like cities.
It's very strange to me. And
well, we're tribal.
But even
and we really don't have
but then
tribes
like your existence was at stake. The success of your tribe actually benefited you. Your tribe got the resources, your tribe grew in numbers.
But that was the instincts to continue that is still there. It's just there are no actual stakes.
It's tiresome. It's
for sure.
So as we do this show, the Braves are in the playoffs. They're playing the Phillies again. My cousin is a huge Phillies fan, and she's obnoxious about it. And really, when I think about the Braves losing this series, because they're down one game already in a best-of-3 series, I think of her and how she'll just dance around, and she's a year older than me, but like, nah, 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 nah. I was like, I don't want to fucking deal with that. And the thought of her being so crushed if they lose the series, the Phillies, is one of the main motivations in my fandom right now. Because I want to see her. I mean, I won't see her because she'll disappear. She'll go into hiding, and I'll love it. And that's a pretty dumb reason to pay attention to. And that's not the only reason, but whatever my feelings are, this is how they're being channeled at this moment. And she's representative of a whole fan base who is really obnoxious. The Philadelphia fan base is very, very obnoxious. Does it matter in the long run if the Phillies beat the Braves? No. Does it change their lives? No. Does it change any Braves fans' life? No. But God damn it, I don't want them to have the ability to rub anything in.
Yeah. It's hard to not care, like get to a place of not caring, but then to know someone that you're annoyed by is upset, it makes you care.
It's impossible.
Then you can't not care.
I don't want to say it's impossible to not care. I think what I've really spent the last couple of years doing is trying to get to a place where I don't care about these things and I don't let them affect me. No,
yeah,
but what
it should just be a game.
What I find is you
game.
end up not caring about anything because the world is filled with fucking assholes. So if you're going to live like that, where you don't care, there's nowhere you can go where you won't be even looking back on this show that we've done so far. You go to the gym, you go on the fucking sidewalk, you go on the subway, you like to watch sports. Every faction of life is filled with people who are in it for themselves, and somehow that negatively will influence you. It will make your experience worse. I'm not saying that because there is no solution. There's no way that we can all just exist and have the life that we want and the influence of others won't creep in and affect us in certain ways. I can accept that and deal with it. But when it's manufactured and the platform is things that don't fucking matter, I think that's what's really bothering me about it.
I see. Like someone caring so much about something that we should not be caring this much about. And then it puts you in a position to care more than you want to.
Somebody using the sidewalk as their fashion runway who I'd prefer them, honestly, to yell at me in real time.
See, you should walk by them and be like, yes,
no, because
queen.
This is not your runway, and there are hundreds of people who need to get by. And
well, if there are hundreds of people, then yeah, it's rude. But if it's just a sidewalk and someone's using it, you like compliment them. Say like, all right, go off, bitch.
I'd prefer them to yell at me in real time. But what
no, because then it feels good. Because then you feel good about, and then they react really nice. They're so happy.
No,
like,
it encourages. It
you know, like you've made their day.
The behavior needs to stop.
It makes their day. It makes you feel good. You had a human connection with someone.
Again, I'd prefer if they yelled at me in real time, but they won't do that more than likely. What they will do is do one of those videos where you cross and then they put a bunch of text on the screen calling you an inconsiderate asshole. And then they take another a freeze for a night. I'm not even saying that. Don't even bring. I mean, maybe they go there, but that's.
Oh, I'm just saying, like white men thinking that they rule the sidewalk.
Maybe they go there, but I don't even want to go down that path because that's not what I'm complaining about. This has nothing to do with me being a white dude. It's just a person.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Everyone's so sensitive.
I'm not so sensitive. It just honestly opens a different door. Then it creates this thing.
I'm not saying that you were saying that the other person was a person of color.
I know
like a white person can say that about a white man.
I'm saying that when there are plenty of people who will complain, I don't have the life I used to have because I'm white and there's an attack against me. And that's not what I'm doing in this. So when you introduce something, but when you introduce something like that, then it presents this different platform that I'm not preaching from. That
was not my intention. My intention was for this woman this fictional woman who's using the sidewalk as her whatever, and then she zooms in on your face looking annoyed.
But that's why I reacted, because that's not where I'm coming from. I'm preaching from a wet box on the lowest point of the city that floods anytime it rains. That's like a wet box? A cardboard box that's wet and is collapsing.
Oh, you're not standing on like you're like a box, a regular box?
It's not standing on one that's collapsing because it's wet. And it doesn't have any structural integrity anymore. So they're just different places, and where you're doing this from matters.
I just don't think that I just don't skew. Maybe it's by choice. I don't know. It just feels better day to day, moment to moment to, I don't know, to skew more positive. You know, and make a situation that maybe I am annoyed by, but make it a little better by like someone, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was like definitely not my fault. And the person, it was a driver or something. They did something to me and was mad at me for it. And I was like, what? I was completely innocent. You know, I did not make a mistake. Like they blamed me. I don't know. I can't remember, but it was this feeling of like, it was like a pit in my stomach where it was like, I did want to like yell at them or I wanted to find them and explain to them, you know? And then I just laughed. I just laughed at them. So I was like, man, they're having quite a day. Like,
wouldn't it have
they're
been better
freaking
if
out.
somehow you could have introduced boatloads of extra sugar into their diet without them knowing it, to the point where they got diabetes and then they had to have their legs amputated eventually?
So what you want to do is you want to get a piece of their hair, just a little piece, and you want to wrap it really tight with some sticks.
That would have been. That's what I would like. Some people think, oh, I'm going to scream back and I want to beat them up. Like, no, I'm going to take your license plate down. I'm going to figure out where you live, and I'm going to sneak in, and I'm going to add.
I remember what it was. We were at a red light. The car in front of me did not go, and they just sat there through the green light, and I was honking at them, and they still would not go. And then the light turned red again. I was like, the fuck is going on? I almost thought about getting out to make sure the person was okay, but I saw them moving around in there. So then the light turns green and they still don't go. And then they start going, and then they start brake checking me and like moving in front of me. Like I move over to the right lane to go past them, and they move in front of me. And then I finally make my turn and they go off. But I was like, whoa, wow, what the heck? But yeah, so then there was like a lot of feelings of like, you are the one that fucked up, and now you're I don't know, you're like blaming me or inconvenient, you know what I mean? Like attacking me with your brake checking and rudeness. And then I just started laughing. I was like, man, what the fuck is going on? Like they are
overall, that situation is funny because it makes zero sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. So there's humor in there, yes. But the fact...
And of course, you know, my first little toot toot on the horn was a sweet one, like boop boop, like hi, boop 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 boop. And it was like, burp.
But it's representative of an inability for people to look within themselves. Yes,
that is a huge thing.
If I, for whatever reason, I don't know why I'd miss a whole light cycle. I don't know. But if I did, and somebody was honking and annoyed with me, and then they wanted to get around me, it's like, why am I pissed at them at that point?
Don't be mad at me.
There was a lot of anger and a lot of hate that people carry around.
Uh-huh. But I have to tell you, I did remember their license plate number, and I looked it up.
And?
I didn't find anything. But I paid $1 to get the information.
What were we gonna do?
I did do a little bit of witchiness to try and like sabotage them in some way. I don't know. Just have it. Maybe tell you, and then
there's
come up with a good plan.
Site, and I think it's.
So I'm not totally like a perfect, innocent, angelic minded.
There's a site, How's My Driving NY.NYC. It will. You can put in a license plate from any state, but it's got to be violations within New York City. So these are just parking and camera violations, but. I quite often, like, I'll see cars that sit on the sidewalk that they get tickets. It's like they have 3 tickets on the windshield. Yeah. They clearly don't care. To them, the $65 fine is cheaper than a garage or whatever it may be. Though at some point they will tow your car, so you do have to pay the.
Well, and if you don't pay it, then your license will be suspended, and you won't know it until you get pulled over.
I mean, they'll suspend it. They will tow your car. They boot your car is another thing that they'll do
Oh,
if you haven't paid your.
if they pull up the plate
At
number
some
and it
point, if you're
says that.
collecting a bunch of tickets, but if you pay them, then
Mm-hmm.
you're really in the clear, which is
Okay.
surprising. I still think that if you're paying but you're getting a ticket every single week, that there will be some kind of repercussion, but apparently not. But yeah, I looked
Yeah.
up one of these cars and like the amount of violations and money they've paid over the past 3 years was close to $20,000. And I guess they just have
Whoa.
the money to do it. They don't. They paid most of it. Like outstanding, there was only $800, which means they probably just every once in a while take a lump sum and pay it off. So they were paying their
Right.
tickets.
Maybe once they try and like redo their uh not insurance, but like emissions or something, it'll be like you can't renew until, or even their driver's license, like you can't renew
Well, I was
until you've
thinking,
paid
who
these
the
fines.
fuck is this person? They were driving an older
Yeah.
Mercedes, probably from the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was sitting there, because this is one of the days a street sweeper was coming through, so I was in my car. The person came out. It was a woman who was probably like 70, but not like
Oh my
wasn't
God, was it
no,
Sonia
it
Morgan?
wasn't. I don't even know who that is. I
She
have
was
no.
married to like the grandson of
I
Morgan.
wouldn't know. I feel like this woman wasn't
I don't
married to
know.
anyone. The way she looked, she was
Well,
wearing
she's
a
not married.
muumuu and a hat,
Oh,
like
Sonia.
a sun hat with a flower in it, and carrying some kind of terrier. Uh,
Oh, okay. She was she
no, no,
crunchy?
no,
She was like a hippie looking, like a
no. She
moo
was
thing, or
older. She
oh,
was
she
like
was
60
fancy,
something. She had like
but she
no,
wasn't
like
like hippie older. She was like,
she thought she got herself presentable for public by putting on makeup, but it was very bright lipstick that wasn't applied evenly, so it was kind of all over the place.
oh,
And
it's Sonia Morgan for
she had
sure.
very
That's exactly
sharp
who that
lines
was.
of rouge on her face, though I guess that's the style these days. Well, you blend it. I
She's
don't know
selling
who
her
this is. I
townhouse
have no
again.
clue.
Sonia Morgan. She's from Real Housewives of New York.
And what's her deal? What's happening to her?
I'm not sure exactly. She she's a mess. She's just a messy weirdo. I'm trying to see who her. Oh, JP. It's the grand. Uh, like I think that she was married to the great grandson of JP Morgan. Anyway, so she has this like dilapidated townhouse that she's selling for like millions and like $7 million or something. But then she also tries to rent it for a ridiculous amount of money each month. But it has all these problems that were documented on the
Well, who
show.
did she think's going to rent it? Like, if she rented it for cheap, then you could get some fan person who's like, "Oh, I'm living in Sonia's house." But anyone who
Yeah.
has, God knows what she's renting it for, but I assume $10,000 a month if it's a whole house, if not more. Anyone who's in that bracket doesn't give a shit about living in a real house. Yeah,
$32,000
like
a month.
whoever can afford that isn't going to want to deal with the house that has problems, and they're not going to give the person a pass because they're a real fucking housewife. If anything,
No.
because some people look up to those people because they have success and money, and that's kind of the draw. And if you've got that lifestyle that they have already, you're not going to be impressed by it. You're going to look at the person and think they're pathetic. So in her mind, I assume, obviously I can't get into her mind. There's probably not much happening inside of it, but I assume she's like, oh, I'm Sonia, whoever the fuck. And people are going to want to live in my house because then maybe they could be on the TV show. Maybe I'll show up one day with the cameras.
She's not that calculated. She's more like, well, it's a 3-bedroom townhome, and on 63rd Street, and it's this and it's that, and it's been in the JP Morgan.
She's a scourge.
It's fabulous. She's wild. Oh, she's a blast. She and Ramona.
Then why is she a blast? Why is
You
she a
should watch
blast?
Real
Because
Housewives of New
she's
York.
an awful human that when you don't have to actually deal with her in real life, you can, similar to your situation with the person sitting at the light, if you're not actually dealing with it and it's not having an effect on you, then you say, oh, okay, this is funny. Look at this insane thing that's happening.
Yeah.
But think about the people who do have to interact with her and the people who do know her. Not a blast to them.
Oh, that doesn't matter to me. That's none of my
It's
business.
not a blast to them. I think things continue to deteriorate. I know that you think that that look, I think about trying to view things through a different lens, and I do try on different lenses. My most recent one was trying not to care, and it wasn't working so well.
Okay, but that's the wrong approach. I think the right approach would be feeling the feeling of the care, and then breaking that down and saying, like, what is this?
There's too much of it. I don't
Where's
have
this
time to
coming
do
from?
that.
Well, no, just the things that
I'm
matter to you.
introspective
Like,
enough. I'm
not
self-aware enough. I try to think about my actions and how they affect other people. And
well, you should think about how they affect yourself.
no, because then if you
No,
have
No,
to
no.
sacrifice, you have to make sacrifices. You do, because
you
if you don't, then you're a hypocrite. Then you
Well,
find yourself
okay,
in the
but-
same boat as
okay, you
these
don't have to
people,
be-
and you lose all credibility.
No, what I'm saying is focusing on things for yourself, and how not introspective on how your behavior affects others, but how your behavior affects you will then make you a maybe better person for others.
Impossible.
Okay.
All right, fine. You're on to something there when it comes to like interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I think for the most part, people are able to deal with it and enjoy it. There's certainly times that I go a little too far and it becomes tiresome, and people are annoyed.
It's still, we're talking about other people. I'm talking about yourself.
I'm not that tired with it. I'm mostly okay with it. The reason I think about
It doesn't make you miserable?
no, not necessarily. I think what makes me miserable is thinking about how it affects other people. Like, let's say Christina. Like I don't want to be constantly miserable, because then it'll make her experience worse. Like, obviously she's an adult and could say, fuck you, I'm tired of you. What the hell is going on here?
You don't want her to get to that point.
I would prefer if that didn't happen. But if you removed anyone in my life that I cared about who my behavior could have an effect on, I don't think I would care that much. I don't feel any certain way about it. I think that I look at myself from afar, if I remove myself from myself, and I say, it's a pretty cool person. That person's got a lot of things figured out. And I think I would like to be like them.
Huh.
Maybe I know it's a little cocky, isn't it?
No, it's totally.
I view myself in the workplace,
for
for example, in the way I carry myself, and I think I set a good example for other people.
Again, for others.
Well, I'm not being anyone but myself. By being myself, by going into work and saying amongst people I trust and people I speak openly with, this is fucking stupid. This person's getting way too involved over something that doesn't fucking matter. And they hear that, but then at the same time, it's like, I'm a professional and I expect people to do good work. It's like, I feel like I'm in a spot where it's like, this is where you need to be. Don't take it too far, this extreme. Don't take it, like, meaning the extreme where it's like, this is the most important stuff and my whole identity is embedded in this. And I'm going to chase success and clout, and I'll stab people in the back so I can get to the top ranks. And don't go to the other side where it's like, I don't give a shit. I'm just here for the paycheck.
Right.
It's like, find the ground of reality. The reality is, yes, it's a job and we should care to the extent that we're professionals, and professionals know what they're doing, get paid well for it. And when somebody hires them, there's an obligation to do a good job. That doesn't, I think, exist too much these days. You've got the people who really become so wound up and so fucking anxious at the slight of any little problem, which there's always going to be problems, and none of them are the end of the world. There are things that can be solved pretty easily, but when it pops up, it stirs your stress, and then you call everyone lazy and inept and incapable. Because why? Because they weren't perfect, and now...
Well, that's something to do with
Yes.
them.
And then on the other side, you have people who say, I don't care about doing a good job as long as I get my money. And I think that exists. I don't really trust many people to do professional jobs anymore. When we were kids, I would look at adults and think, oh, yeah, they've got their shit together and this is their career is something that they're good at and they care about. And it's like, I don't think so anymore. Like I feel like you hire people, contractors to do work and it's shoddy and they just take your money and they run with it and they try to make the margin as big as possible so they can pocket as much money as possible
right.
in the hopes that you won't know. It seems to exist. I think that if there's a profession where there's a real chance of being sued, like a doctor, then maybe you care a bit more,
Yeah,
a
that's
bit
different.
more, but that's
Yeah.
still a selfish motivation.
See, but again, thinking that this is the way that everyone is in the world outside of you, I think is a fight that is unwinnable and based on
Well, it is
inaccuracy.
unwinnable. It's not based on inaccuracy, but it's unwinnable, and there's no point.
I think it's not accurate. I don't think
There's no
everyone
point
is
in
like that.
trying because nobody is open to thinking about things any differently than they already believe.
See, no one. That's not
Most
true.
people. Fine. I know I'm making
A
declarative
lot of
statements, but
people,
okay,
you know.
93% of
Okay.
people.
See, no, I
I
don't
do
think it's
think
that
it's that high.
high.
Look at anybody who has an opinion on something where somebody with a different opinion comes into play and the way they go at each other, it's like nobody's going to do the boat.
But that's based on interactions
No,
over social
this
media
is
and not
in
in
person
person.
too. You can see the videos.
I don't see friends talking,
You, you
huh?
can see
You
the
can see
videos
them
of
on
this
social
happening
media.
on social media. But both people,
But then it's done for social media. Do you know what I'm saying? Like people who speak and talk to each other and, have a mutual respect for each other, having different opinions and different viewpoints or whatever, I feel like it's a lot easier to see the common ground when it's two individuals just talking. And I feel like that's the true human nature.
I think it's shifting. I don't know if that's true anymore. Well, if only for
I just think
if
you're getting
only if
influenced
only
by social media being a reality and it
at
is
some
not.
point it does become reality when that's where most interactions are happening. What you're talking about probably does still exist on a one-on-one basis in real life without an audience, without a camera. People are probably willing to have
Yeah.
discussions, but the moment you add any of those things, which there's always other people looking, there's always a camera, and then the moment that most of the insight into these interactions is happening online, that is the reality now. Well, if somebody is acting a certain way, if you say they're just playing it up because it's for social media or it's because there's an audience,
Right.
what do they really fucking think then? Do they, after the fact, do they think, well, that's not really who I am and that's not really who I think? And does it even matter at that point if that's what happens? Because they're not presenting that to anyone else. It's something they've bottled up and kept inside, which
Maybe like at a dinner party, they would
yeah,
express it
but
differently.
maybe. But even if they did, how often are they going to dinner parties and how often are they interacting on the larger stage? And at what point, what is the reality of it? So if everyone's just walking
Well,
around,
I think the reality.
like if
Go ahead.
right now rage bait is very big, people making fake
Yes.
videos to stir people up. If everybody, and this is just an example because I know not everybody is out there. I'm just using that. If everybody then started, they didn't really believe the things they were presenting. They didn't really go to a restaurant and treat a waiter like shit, but they're just doing it for camp. But if everyone's doing that because they're performing, isn't that reality at that point?
I still feel like no, it's
It
not
is the
reality.
reality though. How's it not?
Because the camera turns off and they're like, "Thank you so much. I'm really sorry. Like this was just for this. Can you sign this release?"
People shouldn't have to deal with that.
No, they shouldn't. I'm not saying that, but I don't feel like that is not a natural human experience when it's like being it's like whatever those, is it like a photon or whatever being observed, it acts different than it does when it's not. It's the same thing. We act differently when we
No,
know
but
we're
that's
being
what creates
observed
the
or we're
reality.
doing it
What you
for a
just said
purpose.
is that the um, particles can exist everywhere in many different forms all at once until they're observed, and then they take on a very specific shape and place in space. And that is what makes up the reality. There's this whole idea that the shit around us doesn't exist until it's observed. And if this microphone you're speaking into exists everywhere across the universe until you actually look at it and speak into it, what's the reality? The microphone that you're speaking into, because this is the world that you're in. So this is the reality.
Well, I'm not saying that the reality isn't that people are doing that, but the actual human experience is not that experience. It's manufactured at that point.
And all I'm saying is that doesn't matter if it's manufactured or not. Once it becomes the majority in the way most people are conducting themselves, then that is the reality.
I don't think most people are conducting themselves that way. People aren't doing that. I haven't been to a restaurant where someone has done that ever.
They're conducting their lives in a very similar manner. Unless there was a hidden camera off to the side and they were just doing it for fun to post. I'm going to sit at the...
Okay. Well, for me, I guess it was my reality.
But why are they carrying themselves like that? I'm saying that there's more
I don't know.
of these
That's none of my
instances
business.
popping up.
It's more about how I react and how I feel about it, because how they are behaving and what they're doing is none of my business. It's about how I then react and then carry that into my own life and how much
I think
it
it is your
me.
business. The moment it affects your life, it is your business. Now, you're right in how much should it affect you.
Right. That's my business. That part of it is my business. But me finding out why they did it or wanting them to be punished because they did it, that is something that I don't need to trouble myself with, and it is fruitless. What is fruitful is how I process it, what it meant to me, why did it make me feel that, you know what I'm saying? So, and not saying that you have to intellectualize every single feeling. Sometimes you just feel things, but you know, if it's poisoning you, if it were, it did feel like poison to me a little bit, because like we said, it was just so random and then odd that it happened in the first place, and that like I was being like blamed or like punished for like not for driving normally, you know, anticipating someone to go at a green light. Like that's wildly crazy of me. I don't think that, I think it's more important for me for how I then move from that experience.
But when it's happening,
and that should be people's reality.
in an isolated incidents, I agree. But when it's happening more and more.
But what do you mean more and more? Do you go to, I haven't been, I know people talk about like going into like airports and all this shit happening and people bringing, you know, service giraffes onto the, like I have not seen any of that. I haven't been at an airport where like
shit's not at airports
down.
that often.
I haven't been.
I'm not saying.
I am frequent, not frequent, but like 5 times a year maybe.
You know, maybe it's a.
And that's the most. That's when most people are flying.
The interactions you have with people, it's not as much as, I mean, maybe it's a difference of where we live, but when you're around so many people,
sure,
in public places, like even being in cars, what you're talking about is an incident that happened in a car. People do act differently in cars for whatever fucking reason. They think,
yes,
they're
because they're enclosed,
they're protected.
They're not, yeah.
They can.
You're interacting with more.
I'm just seeing like, people, just watching
actual physical
people.
existence.
Like, I'm not really interacting with many people.
But I mean, in a situation in a car, people are much more quick to, you know, shitty behavior. Whereas 2 people on a sidewalk walking towards each other and like interacting in some way, it's a lot easier to smooth things out because people don't react in the same way.
There's too many people. I think about the world having 8 billion people. It's absolutely disgusting. You look at those charts just from a sense of the amount of shit that's being produced. Literal. Yeah, that in
Literal
itself is
shit.
disgusting, and all the breathing and exhaling and gases leaking from people. All of that is disgusting in its own right. But I look at those charts that show like the exponential growth of population and like the days when it was like, oh, there's like 400 million people on this whole planet. It's like, wow, that's cool. I wish.
What was that, like pre-agriculture?
I wish we could go back.
You got to go to that island that like kills people that try and get to it.
I just don't think that
there.
people not procreating is a problem. When people they say the birth rates are on a decline, it's like I don't think that's.
Oh, but it's like, well, maybe it should
necessarily a bad thing.
No, I might agree with you there.
Yeah, so like industrial revolution times, like it was just slow fucking growth from 10,000. I'm looking at this chart now, 10,000 BC to 1750, 1850. Like even fuck me. Even if you go back 100 years, it is insane the amount of growth that's happened over just the past century. It has jumped.
Why is that? Is that because of like antibiotics?
Yeah, I mean, it's better healthcare, longer lifespans. It is just insane. I would have much preferred. Like I know living in the 1800s wasn't so great. It would just be cool if you could have, I would say, technology of the 80s and 90s, maybe 2000s, where before it got too pervasive. If you could have that world with the population of the 1800s or the 1700s, that's all I'm asking for. I mean, at this point, it's impossible. We're never getting there. But
I feel like you would still be like, there's too many people. You know, it's all perspective.
I know there's a question. It's like, why do you live in New York if this bothers you so much? Like, there's this I
hate people. I'm going to live in a really densely populated area.
There's this idea that being around people could be cool because you're able to have I'm not opposed to people. Like, I think the appeal was, wow, there's an energy there. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of interesting people. And, you know, just the ability to have conversations that with a person maybe you'll never see again. Like that is interesting in some way to me. It's not anymore. I don't. Something changed.
Well, it became less.
I don't know
if
it was a novelty.
Maybe. Well, the opportunity for it and like
it's a real thing, though.
Of it
sure, you can chalk some of it up to like a romantic outlook, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people collaborating, and there was a real appeal to all of that. I feel like that's going away in New York. In that the cost of living here and across the board continues to skyrocket.
Yeah.
But
well, everyone's moving from New York to LA, and then people from LA are moving to Austin.
That's what I hear, but there's still plenty of fucking people who came back after they fled because of COVID. They shouldn't have been allowed back into the city. If you had there are plenty of people who didn't have the ability, the money to move. If you were in a spot where like I can just pick up and leave because my job doesn't require me to be any certain place. It's like, why are you even here then? What are you getting about? Like, to me, part of living in the city was going out and doing things in the city, working in the city, having to be in the city because that's where your job was. It's like, at some point it just becomes clout. It becomes a status symbol. And I think that's what a lot of people treat New York as. And maybe some of it is, I really like my neighborhood, but my neighborhood's also filled with a bunch of insufferable fucking dickheads. And I don't like the way they carry themselves and complain about everything and are fake self-righteous. I know complaining about everything is something to, I'm aware of the hypocrisy there, but it's like the things they complain about are things that don't fucking matter. Like, I don't like the way you put your trash can out on the sidewalk. It needs to be 2 millimeters over.
Well, that's everybody. That's everyone in any neighborhood finds little things to bitch at.
It's a shame.
A bitch about.
And I wish you had more going on in your life where that's not something you were thinking about. If you're so fucking well-to-do, that concerns you.
Well, I think it's more about not addressing things that are actually important, that are scary and big, right? So it's like, well, I'll focus on these things.
It's just a shame.
Really, I hate my life and I hate my husband. But actually,
Yeah, see, now you're
you know,
getting this is the reality of people's lives.
but see, that's
And it
that
comes out in
reality, and that's
weird
fine.
ways.
I feel like it's all part of the interwoven tapestry of society.
There just
And I'm
used to
fine with
be
it.
accessibility to New York. It was always expensive. But
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Like I know you've heard me, complain about how it's impossible to purchase a home. I don't understand how anyone does it, without getting, I don't know, grants and things. And like, I don't understand how someone can buy a, $500,000 first time home, and put like 20% down. You have that?
somebody has it. Maybe their parents have it.
Do you have that?
I mean, it depends on what we're talking about here. how
I don't have
how
$100,000.
expensive
I
is
don't
the
have that.
house?
Let's say it's
And
500,000.
what's 20% of 500,000? No,
A
I couldn't.
hundred.
I mean, I guess if I drained everything,
If I drained everything, I, I would have like, I don't know, 36K. I got
I
nothing,
mean, if I
bro.
took out 401ks, I mean, yeah.
That's what
Then
I mean. Yeah. If I took my
like,
retirement
I was
and
late
stuff.
to start saving too. There's some people who just started.
I'm not saving shit. Like I still have 401. I'm saving 401ks and stuff, but I'm living.
I mean, that's the way I went about it. I wasn't too concerned with saving, but I also wasn't living extravagantly. I was just living and spending the money that I needed to spend.
I agree. I don't feel like I'm living extravagantly. I mean, I do have a couple of nice things. I have AirPods. I just bought a computer. I get a little tox every once in a while in the forehead. To the dome. I get a little
And what
tox
does
to the
that
dome every
cost?
once in a while. Well, it's like 150.
And how often are you doing it?
It's not bad. Like, I think it's every 3 or 4 months.
You know what would allow you to buy a house?
I guess I could save that.
No, you know it would allow you to buy the house if there weren't so many people.
What?
In 1950,
No, that's
yeah,
not true.
because if there
Really?
weren't so many people, there wouldn't be such competition for housing, and then you would be able to get a house at an affordable rate. But instead, everyone is willing to shell out for whatever fucking reason, and I don't know how they get the money, like we just established, but they're willing to go above and beyond because they need to beat you and they need to get this house because, God forbid, 2.5 billion people. That's all the planet was in 1950. 1950, not even 100 years ago. 80. What was it? No, it's 74 years
What?
ago. 74
Is
years
that
ago,
all?
2.5 billion. In 74 years, we've grown to 8 billion people. It's
Well,
disgusting. And
2 of those are my fault.
it continues to grow exponentially. So God knows in the next 50 years.
Ugh,
Whatever. It's a
Just bring
real
it on.
problem.
Whatever's
It's
coming,
gross.
just bring it. I know, but what am
It's
I going to
disgusting
do?
that there's so many.
It's like what's happening in the government and all of this shit. It's like, what the fuck am I going to do about it?
Population estimates 2050. God. Next 30 years, we'll add another 2 billion people. So in 2050,
But how many will
not
die?
that many.
Oh.
It could peak at nearly 10.4 billion in the mid 2080s. I don't know why. See, now I got to read more. They think it'll peak.
Oh,
It means
man.
that then there's going to be suffering and people just dying because it's not sustainable. And think about housing prices then.
Well, I'll just stay in this apartment. I don't give a shit.
They could raise the rent to whatever they want.
I know. I am worried about that. Please stop raising
Population
the
of
rent.
USA 1950.
But I don't really have another choice.
So 1950 was only 150 million people in the US.
If I tried to save, if I didn't get Botox, what was it? Let's say it's 150. That's $600 a year. If I needed
Stop with
$100,000
that.
down,
Get your Botox.
166 years. 166 years. Well, that's what they start to say, right? If it's like,
if you didn't have a coffee every day, then
you're like, fuck you. Are you fucking serious? Are you trying to tell me? First of all, I don't get a coffee every day. And okay, so my extravagant thing, which is, I guess, the Botox. I feel like that's the most expensive, like, upkeep sort of thing I'm doing. That's like extravagance. Okay, it'll take me 166 years. I'll do that. We'll take off 6 years with, like, if I get a good interest rate.
Yeah, if you look into how much money I spent into gummy bears, then maybe I could have.
Oh my God. It would only take you 200,000 months to save up for a down payment. Greg, you should do it. Shut up. I just hate also, like, when Wes Moss comes on the radio show and he talks about, like, things are getting better and this. It's like, no, it's fucking not.
Well, he's talking to people who already have money.
Nothing has changed. Right, but not everybody has money.
He doesn't care about those
and
people.
The people that you're talking
make him money.
I know he doesn't.
If you don't already have money, then you don't make Wes Moss money. Wes Moss needs your money to invest.
And then also the way he talked about New York during the pandemic and how it's a ghost town. You don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, compared to, sure, at one point it was.
New York's
at one point it was a ghost town, but there was a lot of that
wow.
discussion after things had kind of reopened. It's like, no, it's not. It's not the same.
It's not.
In the
it
sense
wasn't.
that, people are going to the office
Right,
buildings every day, and the population ballooned by an additional 1.5 million people. That doesn't exist in the way, but that doesn't exist anywhere anymore the same way it used to, because.
Oh my God, New York! Wow, I just didn't like how he talked about it. Obviously not with his feet on the ground. I don't mean that literally. I mean, like, he had no real point of reference except for, like, what Trump said.
Well, that's what people like to grab onto their storylines, whatever is convenient to push whatever agenda all around.
Yeah.
Everyone's just.
But I made this point before about, like, a man could have a wife and 3 kids and he could be an electrician and he bought a house for them and the wife doesn't work.
Those days are gone.
I know.
Because there's no middle class.
Why? Yeah. So I'm middle class.
Well, good luck. No,
but there is no middle class.
Are going to be pushed to the upper class, which is not going to happen, or down to the poor class.
Nope. Yeah. Well, it's almost like I'm a ghost of a middle class because I still am able to afford certain things, but the sort of expectations of middle class are no longer attainable.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to reconcile because you're told your whole life that if you just do these things, then you're going to be fine, and those things don't get you to the level of fine anymore. And
I didn't go to college and, like, right out of high school and got, like, a journalism degree or, like, English major. I
fucking waste these days.
I took my time and went and got a degree that I was interested in and good at. I did things a little out of order.
People go to college now, and they
right.
I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess it didn't set you up any better. And people go to college aren't necessarily set up better anymore. But I feel like they go to college and they come out of college with the idea you're smarter than most people. A lot of people you encountered, they're just dumb. So it's up to you to educate them. And please try not to blame them too much because, again, they're just dumb. Some of it's not even their own fault. People who graduate
Who are you
college,
talking about?
That's what you leave college with. This idea that you're going to encounter a lot of people who just don't know things, and you're smarter, and you're privileged because you had the ability to get smarter than them by going to college. So teach them. It's your job to go around and then teach people who are just too dumb. Don't be nasty. Only be nasty if then they say, fuck you for saying I'm done. Then you can be nasty because they're not open. They're not open to the knowledge you are looking to give to them. And for this, we're Yeah, and for
That
this,
they
we're
didn't
only
ask
going
for.
to put you into a few $100,000 of debt. It's totally worth it.
Well, that's another thing about the cost of college.
I wish
So
there
stupid.
was a rebellion and half these schools shut down. If there was a reckoning, that would be amazing.
Here, 18-year-old, you want a loan for $5,000
Yeah,
a semester?
that's low end. You want to go to this fancy school? You want to go to NYU? You only owe $300,000.
Oh, yeah. I guess I meant like living
you only
expenses.
owe $350,000 at the end of it, but don't worry. Think about that later. Right now, it's important that you focus on your education. That's what's most important.
Yep. Oh, man. Everything sucks, Greg. You were right.
Even if I'm trying.
You turned me.
I think the biggest thing in all of this is, we'll start the fucking music over. It's just figuring out how you fit in. It's like I don't necessarily know how I fit in anymore. I'm trying different things. I'm not sacrificing who I am as a person, but like I said, there was a point I was hopeful and I tried to look at things positively and said, people will figure it out. There's good in people. And even if there's still good in people, it's not going to come together in any kind of harmonious way. I think that idea is out the door. Then I decided to not let things bother me. It's like, well, that's if I'm going to cut off everything that bothers me, then I'm not living. I'm just existing. So it's like, what's next? I don't know what's next.
Some middle
Somewhere.
ground. I mean, even this talking about it this way and getting like annoyed and mad or whatever at the world, that is part of it too. You know, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs. Mm-hmm. People are good, people are bad. It's all a spectrum of everything.
No, they're just dumb. They're all dumb. If you want to gain the knowledge needed to enlighten dumb people, talk to me, and I'm not going to charge you for it. Don't go to college. Talk to me.
All right, talk to Greg. Bye.